we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot 'em a shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no settling. Kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Taking no else, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Who running the game now? Foot on the gas, can slow down. No, my team, we holding it down. We know we running it now. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change.
Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mac, and tonight the Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Orlando Magic, an opponent that we all know that Cleveland knows very well. That said, they do look a bit different this season after the acquisition of former Memphis Grizzlies guard Desmond Bane, a move that at one point in time was seen as a potential game changer in their backcourt, especially in terms of the three-point shot making, as he arrived fresh off of a 2024-25 campaign that saw him average 39.2% from distance and 41% in 5 seasons with the Grizzlies in total. Now, he would end up making his presence felt at certain points tonight, but it didn't really matter that much, if we're being honest. For the Magic, though, they are obviously headlined by the Mercurial Paolo Banchero, who came into tonight averaging 21 points, 8.7 rebounds, and 5 assists while completing 45.3% of his field goals, and as always, struggling with a three-point shot, 27.6% from that distance. Now, they do have a couple of other bright spots. Anthony Black, probably the biggest among them, averaging 15.6, 4-4, while shooting 45.9% from the field himself, including 35.4% from three-point range. Now, listen, entering this game, I had a couple of concerns, right? One, would the Cavaliers be able to generate the energy necessary to complete a back-to-back in winning fashion? I was very, very concerned that the energy levels just would not be there after exerting a ton of that against Domantas Sabonis and the Sacramento Kings. And lo and behold, the Cavaliers ended up doing that, and they got contributions from some unlikely sources in the process. Now, starting off with the first quarter, there were a lot of things that happened in that first frame. Jalen Tyson and Donovan Mitchell triples, a rare Lonzo Ball drive. And stick with me here because Lonzo had a very, very impactful game. Perhaps his most impactful game of the season, which I love to see. Jarrett Allen going at the Blockton Bros. But if I'm being honest, everything in that first quarter was drowned out by Evan Mobley dunking all over Paolo Peanut Butter Banchero. That shit was awesome. Real talk, seriously, that was awesome. This man has been in attack mode recently, absolutely locked in. That dude was awesome in the first quarter. Sheer dominance lately from him in terms of that pure aggressiveness. Now, from a efficiency standpoint, this was not Evan Mobley's best game of the season. Let's just call a spade a spade. It is not going to smile fondly on him in regard to the efficiency levels tonight because he didn't look nearly as dominant as he had in terms of the interior presence. He was just 4-14 from the field. That's 28.6%, including 1 of 6 from three-point distance. That's 16.7%. And he would put up 13, 7, 3. Nowhere near as great as he was against Sacramento, but it was to be expected, in my opinion. I just wanted to continue to see him put the ball on the floor and attack and antagonize. And I did legitimately felt like he tried to do so tonight, even with tired legs, and that being the case. That said, Orlando and Cleveland were fully engaged in a battle early on. Probably the biggest thing that stood out collectively was just how tired the Cavaliers appeared. And no, before the no excuses crowd chirps at me, I'm not saying that's an excuse. In games like this, on the second night of a back-to-back, you got to find ways to dig deep and find ways to win regardless. Now, whether that is simply outwitting your opponent or outwilling them, leaning in deep into your reserves, or simply beating your opponents into submission on the defensive end, that's what we saw tonight from Cleveland. They gutted out a victory. And to that final point, I did feel like they made life really difficult at times on the less glamorous end of the court in the early going. Either way, a record enough for the Cavaliers to end the first leading 25-23. Credit to their energy on that end for forcing Orlando into 4 early turnovers, which turned into 7 points on the offensive end. Something you love to see, especially when the legs are gone and you are only shooting 42.1% from the floor. Someone who's really, really important in the context of that was Naquan Tomlin. That dude's energy was very useful in such a slow, grinded out type of game like this, at least in the first quarter. He ended up drilling 2 triples, if I'm not mistaken, in the second, which is a welcome sight, to be honest with you. For as much energy and fiery passion as Naquan Tomlin often operates with, he still lacks a consistent shot. He's only making 21.5% of his shots from three-point range. We also got some Thomas Bryant minutes. That's something. Same goes for Tyrese Proctor, who was yet again impactful for the Cavaliers in a game where they absolutely needed the minutes from him. Tyrese Proctor, in a little under 10 minutes, 9 minutes and 46 seconds to be exact, was a perfect 4-4 from the field, including 2 of 2 from three-point distance, and he knocked down both of his freebies to contribute 12 total points and was a +9 off the Cavaliers bench in 9 minutes. That's awesome. That's what you want to see out of your second-round pick. Somebody who should have been a first-rounder, quite honestly, lucked into him, right? But the reality is that the catalyst tonight up to that point in the first half of the game, it was Jalen Tyson. The sophomore wing continues to be the most valuable role player on the team. And if I'm being honest with you guys, I'm starting to think that he is venturing into that star level territory. Maybe I need to pump the brakes a little bit, but you guys see where I'm going with this. He has been a really, really bright spot for this team this season that has been filled with so much turbulence in regard to injuries and inconsistencies from the players. And at the first half, things kind of felt, all over the place in terms of some of the miscellaneous stats, right? Points to the paint, Cavaliers did win that battle 22-20. Second chance opportunities and points, Orlando won that 6-4. And then in the fast break, it was dead even. Now, in terms of sheer efficiency, Cleveland won by a landslide. Even in a game where you could tell that the legs were tired, they shot 48.8% from the floor in the first 2, including 47.1% from three-point distance, compared to Orlando's 37.5%, which includes 20% from three-point range. They were abysmal tonight in the first half in terms of pure shot making. They also turned the ball over more than Cleveland. 8 total turnovers, which led to 9 points off of turnovers for Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. Really, really high-level stuff in terms of forcing turnovers. Now, in terms of that second half, Donovan Mitchell got things kicked off with the layup. But the real attraction, in my estimation, was the defense. Jarrett Allen and Lonzo Ball and Dean Wade, these guys were absolutely locked the fuck in. They were shutting shit down, for real. So much so that Jamal Mosley drew a fit, kind of threw a fit out there and got assessed the technical on a play that he thought Paolo Banchero got fouled on. Dean Wade was incredibly valuable in this specific category. Up to that point in the game, he was a game-high +13 in just 17 minutes. He was super impactful on both ends of the floor, and it's really hard to question his impact in games where he's doing a little bit of everything out there, whether that be tipping rebounds back out to the perimeter for some of his teammates to pick up, or that be locking in on Paolo Banchero and making life difficult for him, or whether that be knocking down the three-point shot. He's doing all of these little things out there that sometimes go often overlooked. He was just absolutely mucking things up in the passing lanes and at the point of attack, taking on Paolo and some of the tougher assignments. I was really, really impressed, suffice to say, with their work on that end of the floor in a game where they were a bit depleted, and you could tell. You saw it in the air balls, but they continued to gut through it. And one player who exemplified effort tonight was Lonzo Ball. Ladies and gentlemen, Lonzo Ball had a really good performance. Probably, again, his best of the season. He was such a great addition to the rotation tonight. His defensive tenacity and positioning was vital, right? He was key in them taking an 82-70 lead into the fourth quarter. And then they were able to close things out in pretty great fashion. But some of the things that stuck out to me from Lonzo, right? Obviously, the number one thing that everybody's going to be talking about, the three-point shot. That has been the bane of Lonzo Ball's existence this entire season. We all know the story here. Came into the night shooting 27.1% from three-point distance and 30.4% from the field overall, because the bulk of his shot attempts do come off of that three-point shot. And so, what did I say on the last pod? When it comes to Lonzo Ball, it's so much related to the shot making. One of my good friends over on Twitter probably summed it up best. So I'll just quote him. Clee Analysis, or CE Talks, right? Lonzo always does all the little stuff. Help defense, pushing the pace, switch defending, but his good versus bad are directly tied to one factor, and that being shot making. When he makes his shots, he's an impact player, and exactly what we asked for. And that, my friends, sums it up pretty damn perfectly, because at the end of the day, if he is making, I don't care, 1 to 2 triples on solid efficiency, 1 to 2 triples on a solid efficiency, like 36, 37, 38% from three-point defense, from three-point range, you can live with everything else. That's what it's always been about. That is what it has always been about for Lonzo, knocking down the shots, because he doesn't drive. We know that's just not in his game. He did actually do that a couple of times tonight, operated out of the pick and roll as the initiator with the bigs. Love to see it, but it's not consistent. And so when he shoots and makes the three-point shot, everything else that he brings to the table, whether that be the really good defense at the point of attack, mucking things up in the passing lane, forcing turnovers, being a pickpocket out there, pushing the pace in transition, getting guys good looks, rebounding. He was huge on the glass tonight as he pulled down 8 rebounds. That's huge, especially on a bench that doesn't always have guys who can do that consistently at the guard position. So when he's knocking down the shots, everything else that he brings to the table, it just looks beautiful because it fits so well with what the Cavaliers need, especially in regard to perimeter defense. And that's why it kills me to see him struggle from three-point range. I try and call a spade. I got to be 100 here, right? Lonzo, for the better part of the season, has not been great. But if tonight is a stepping stone to him playing consistent, really effective basketball, I'm all for it, right? And I know that the February 5th trade deadline is approaching, and I know that there will be nonstop tweets and rumors being thrown around out there about Lonzo potentially being moved. But to me, there is a world in which I can see the Cleveland Cavaliers holding on to Lonzo Ball, specifically because of some of these things that he brings outside of shot making, in the hopes that the shot will actually fall. And so that's what it's always been about. It's not about the health. It's not about him coming back from injury. There's not really too many angles you can throw at, because when he missed the games last season, it wasn't due to a leg injury. It was due to the wrist. That's where the bulk of the games were missed from. And so for me, especially having a full offseason work where he was healthy, and he's had games where he's knocked down the shot, it's been inconsistent. But it's all about the shot making. That's really what it all boils down to. Don't come in here talking about the health. It's not the health. It's just consistent shot making. That's what it's always been about with Lonzo. And if he can do that, even if it's just 1 to 2 makes, it's there. It's there. The driving, I could live without that, because we know he doesn't do that if the shots just fall. And so hopefully this is a turning point for him and for everybody that has been shitting on Lonzo, including myself at times. It's okay to, when he has a great performance, and I think this is a great performance, it's okay to give him that praise, even if you're ready to move on from him. And so to me, I think he deserves credit. All credit where it's due. He's just got to be consistent. And here's the other thing, the other aspect to consider here, right? There is a rotational component to this too, because the one thing that I have yet to mention up to this point is the fact that DeAndre Hunter did not play tonight. Now, there had been speculation by many that people need that DeAndre Hunter could have potentially been on the move because he was a late scratch, a late addition to the injury report. But at the end of the day, when everybody is healthy, or when you're getting guys returning to health, like a Sam Merrill, like a Darius Garland, like a Max Strus, who will eventually be back, who's in that rotation? That's the tough question to ask, because Craig Porter Jr. has legitimately had a really solid start to the year, and it's hard to pull him. But at the end of the day, I think also you have to consider the fact that Lonzo has a size advantage on him too. And from a positional versatility standpoint, Lonzo clears him there too, because you can really only play CPJ at the 1 and the 2. You can play Lonzo at the 1, 2, and the 3. He's played a lot of 3 this year, contrary to popular belief. And for him, it's just always going to circle back to shot making. If you can do that 1 to 2 makes per game on 3 to 4 attempts per game, you're playable. You're a guy that will receive minutes, especially in the postseason setting, when that type of stuff is very, very important, the things that he brings to the table, especially that defense for a team that is lacking in that area. So happy to see Lonzo have a great performance tonight. Really, really happy to see that in a game where there just wasn't many other takeaways outside of maybe Jalen Tyson having another good one. 17 points on 5 of 9 shooting, including 3 of 5 from three-point range, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Another really solid Jalen Tyson outing. An extremely high-level performance from Donovan Mitchell, who put up another 30-point game, his 24th of the season, 36 points, 5 boards, 9 assists, was 15 of 30. Yes, this man took 30 shots from the field tonight. Just 2 of 8 from three-point range, but I'll let it live because he got inside so many times in regard to downhill. We saw so much dribble penetration from Donovan Mitchell tonight, and he was able to capitalize on the weak interior defense of the Orlando Magic. He made him pay for it. And he had some beautiful moves too, right? The high gather Spider's special move. That's something that is just aesthetically pleasing. It is beautiful basketball to watch. It's poetry in motion. And so another 30-plus point outing from him, a player that is routinely doing that, that's pretty damn awesome. I love to see it. But honestly, there wasn't too much else to take away from this one. Second half of a back-to-back, the Cavaliers played 10 deep tonight. No Larry Nance Jr. minutes, no DeAndre Hunter, obviously. But everybody who played, I felt, played their part, played a role in bringing this one home. Even the likes of Thomas Bryant, right? 10 minutes for him, 4 points, a lot of energy. Probably a little bit too many fouls, but I'll live with that. Naquan Tomlin, same thing goes for him. He drew 5, or he committed 5 fouls. But his energy out there continues to be a bright spot for this team. And the triples, he attempted 4 of those. You may not see him making too often, but that was pretty cool to see. But I think that's really about it in terms of the big takeaways from this game. And I'm just hoping that Lonzo can carry this over into the rest of the season. I'm hoping that things can be consistent for him, because I really honestly believed heading into the season Lonzo could be a really big X factor for them. And if he continues to do what he did tonight, going to be hard to deny him rotational minutes. We shall see. I'm gonna head into the chat though. As you guys can see, I don't have my usual setup, so sorry if I'm a little bit more quiet than usual. Floyd Phillips second says Ball showed up today. He also says Mitchell played the entire fourth, looked gassed though, get in shape. I mean, it's the second half of a back-to-back, man. Put up 30 shots. He's entitled to be tired, in my opinion. D. Jackson H1K says good game. The bigs Allen and Mobley showed up big tonight. They did, and I forgot to mention Jarrett Allen. He was a big piece defensively in this game. That rejection he had on, I think, Wagner sent his shot packing into the fourth row. That was pretty cool to see. Another big defensive game from him. 3 steals, 2 blocks. Allen kind of filled up the stat sheet. I mean, he only had 8 points, but he was credited with 6 rebounds, a steal, and 6 rebounds, 8 points, 1 assist, 3 steals, and 2 blocks on 3 of 5 from the field. And he even had the opportunity to take a three on a late clock shot heave. Bucknut says good defense, bench showed up, and you needed it, man. They were playing on tired legs. Trevi T says Lonzo had 8 boards. Holy shit. He also says, now that's how you play basketball, gentlemen. They grinded out a victory. Love to see it. Jordy Hitty says, man, the Cavs are starting to look better. Won 10 of their last 14. Hey, what were we saying not so long ago? All the Cavaliers needed to do was catch their stride at the right time. All they needed to do was peak at the right time. And as of recording this, they are 27-20. They are winners of their last 3 games. They are 7-3 in their last 10, and they won 10 of their last 14. 5th seeded team in the Eastern Conference. Not a big gap between seeds 2 and seed 5. Boston, right now, 28-16. Cleveland, 27-20. Not a big gap to climb, about 2.5 games. That's going to the All-Star break. I feel really confident in them climbing really high. Nicotine says, are we finally back? Yes, absolutely. I understand that quality of competition has to be taken into account, but at the end of the day, yeah, they're back, man. Jordy Eddie says, talk about productive minutes from Proctor and Wade. Ball contributed well, too. I think I did already. They have definitely been very, very impactful lately. Jordy Eddie also says, hey, Mac, do you think the Cavs are better when Hunter doesn't play? I don't want to say yes. I think that there is a lot of potential for DeAndre Hunter to play better than he's played this year. And I refuse to believe that the version of DeAndre Hunter we're seeing now is the version of DeAndre Hunter that will get the rest of the year. Same can be said. I mean, literally, look, we're using Lonzo Ball as a perfect example of this. Lonzo has not been great this year, but Lonzo was great tonight. And DeAndre has had games this year where he's looked very, very high level, or at least impactful. That's probably the proper word to use. But no, I don't think they're necessarily better off without him. But it's hard to argue certain things when you see them play out a specific way. Talking in Grubman Media says, what's up? Matt, got another big game against the Magic and a big one against the Lakers coming up, both at home. I definitely want to win those. Yeah, I mean, definitely games that I think the Cavaliers should be itching to win. You got the rematch on Monday, and then you got LA with LeBron and company. We shall see what ends up happening. Gio VRC says, why switch up now, man? All I heard was CPJ over Lonzo the last month. So those of you who have actually been listening to this podcast, and I'm going to assume Gio, because I know I've conversed with you a number of times. Those of you who have actually listened to the podcast and were with me even before this acquisition was in place, one that I called, you know that I rocked heavy with Zoe. And I also don't think it is, I think one of the biggest misconceptions in sports media, podcasting, opinions, anything, it's that, one, opinions cannot change, which is bullshit. And 2, that it's impossible to call like you see it. Because the reality is that Lonzo has been stinky this year. And that's fair to say. Does that mean that Lonzo is not a talented player? No. Does it mean that Lonzo doesn't bring a lot of qualities to the table? No. It simply just means that Craig Porter Jr. on this season and on the totality has actually been better than Lonzo Ball. And that is fair game. So I hate to break it to you, Gio, but that's kind of how it's been. Now, Lonzo had a great game tonight, and I've tried to be fair in my analysis of Lonzo, but don't you dare come up here and tell me that I haven't been a fan or that I switched up on him, because those of you who have actually been rocking with me know that couldn't be further from the truth. A's 8975 says, what do you think about Malik Monk and Keon Ellis for Hunter? I would love that, but at the end of the day, I think that Keon is probably going to draw interest from teams that they can offer picks to acquire for. So we'll end up seeing what happens. Some dude on Twitter stalking me says Lonzo, Carlito, and Proctor all have different skill set. You can play all three. Not when all healthy. You can theoretically play them, but they won't all three play, specifically because the Cavaliers' guard depth is pretty insane when they're at full strength. Darius, Donovan, Craig, Lonzo, Proctor. You can count Max in there. He'll play minutes at the 2. I feel like I'm forgetting people. Sam. No, you won't play them all. But yeah, they theoretically could all play, but they won't all play. That's probably a good stopping point for tonight, guys. I appreciate you for rocking with me. If you're still here by chance, do your boy a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe. If you're not yet a subscriber to this Cavalier podcast, do the same thing for Positive Hooper. But even if you don't, your boy will still be here because I love this team, and I know you guys do too. Go Cavs.